Hey guys, got a special episode for you this weekend. We're on hunting trip. We're doing hunting trip things. I'm really, more than anything, testing out my mobile system so that when I go into maybe Mayor Jacobs' office or American Cannons or even the Sheriff's Department, I mean, so many people have invited us places that I'd like to be able to do that. So this is a way for us to go have a fun hunting weekend together, test this system, and make some tweets. So here's how this works. There's two separate weekends that are together. One's me, Max, and AC. The second section is me and Sam. Two separate events, and you'll notice the quality gets better from the first set to the second set. Almost an agreement at gmail.com. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Tell your friends about us. Get the word out so we can grow. Plenty of things up and coming. We've got another hunting weekend next weekend, so this will be hopefully a better, more complete episode hunting-wise next weekend. This first part, me, AC, and Max. We start off, we're talking about Braves baseball and the social impact of having a Native American name on your team and stuff like that. And then we chat about some other shit. Apparently Trump came out and hunted with us. We'll see. So check it out, and thanks for listening.
Just people making them seem barbaric and marginalized. There's a white person.
Right.
There's a section in at the stadium that is just dedicated to Native American history. Sponsored by the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians.
Really?
But let's do an SI article by a white guy that says, you know what, you're marginalizing.
Well, I mean, it's they changed their mascot look. What's the phrase? It's the
virtue signaling.
No, it's the racism of low expectations. You're not capable of standing up for yourself on this topic. I'm going to do it for you. And so, even if you say it's okay, you're only saying it's okay because you've been conditioned to be okay with it, not because you're actually okay with it.
Yeah, and then I respond by saying that's performance art is what you're doing.
That's my point. Is they're trying to be all anti-racist with their actions or whatever, but when in fact they're being uber racist because they don't think that the people can speak up for themselves. But that's not,
Well, that's the same thing with the whole Georgia and their passed the law that you got to have a government issued ID to vote. And they're like, this is a racist law. Black people can't get IDs. And it was like, what if Trump said that? Black people aren't capable of getting IDs.
He was supposed to be here tonight.
Trump was?
Yeah.
Supposed to be at the baseball game? Or like here?
Coming up right there.
No, cool.
See him? Got an entourage with it.
I mean,
1988 GMC.
He still gets Secret Service in detail.
I'm sure he does. You know what was glorious? No fucking mosquito.
That was nice. Yeah,
holy shit.
I'm still picking off those fucking seat backs or whatever that were picked up.
Yeah. I've got them on me too.
Yeah.
It's actually thorns, for me at least. Those are thorns from the
little, pea-sized ones, yeah.
That Waverly last time we went. Oh my god, the fucking mosquitoes were awful.
I had 27 on my hands.
He was only in the stretch.
Better than he was in Boston when he gave up to Triple and he was taken out of the game. I wonder if he has any trouble adjusting when he's in the stretch because the other two starts he got roughed, right? And a lot of base runners.
I really enjoyed Cyclist. I mean, despite the tromping through the thorny weed bushes that whole time.
You probably should have said, just set your ass down and waited for it to come around.
Where'd you go?
Same place you and I went where we heard all the music.
Oh, when you didn't bring your bow?
Yeah, at the compound, not the Raven.
No, you didn't have anything.
Damn, I didn't bring the compound either.
You're not anything. I was the only one that had a boat. And then USA was like, there's one right over here. It's coming around to you. And I'm like, I don't see it. Yeah, it should be right there. He didn't have anything. He was just out there in the woods scouting.
Yeah, I didn't like where Steve and I accidentally went was real nice. Had real potential. I will probably try to make a day trip up there when Big Guns open. Because I think it's. I mean, there sure as shit a bunch of turkey. And like I said, I ran into that one elk.
What are you going to shoot with? You have a shotgun?
No, I'm talking about deer.
I thought you were talking about going back and shooting a turkey.
No. I was talking about going back with Big Guns and deer hunt there. Because I'm pretty sure I saw a couple of deer. It's like, well, what does an elk's ass look like?
It's fucking massive.
Brown and huge.
Does it have like a short tail that's spiked up like a deer?
It's got a big, like, cream colored, like, circle.
Like bad shape. It's not a circle. It's bad shape. I'm pretty like because I saw two very white asses pop up and run into.
Well, it's not.
No, those are white tailed.
Yeah. And they weren't they weren't as large as the elk that I ran into.
You won't be able to tell. Like you see the elk. Did you ever actually physically see any of the elk? Or did you just hear them?
When we were there?
Yeah.
I saw that first one. I went up there and stood by that tree. Points.
What were you saying? Sorry.
Yeah, the one like because when I got up on my chair and I went up to that dead stand tree. Yeah, he came trotting by me and then down the hill on the other side.
See you?
I don't think so. What's that yellow bag?
Frozen burritos.
No.
Just in case someone needs a snack.
Well, I mean, you said when you said there's no need for me to bring the chili, I assumed there was some food there. But
hell, I was just thinking.
There's that, and then there's still a bunch of ram meat in there.
Oh, I need it. Do you have any taco shells left?
Yeah, there's like 3 taco shells left.
I'm gonna
make a sandwich too.
I'm gonna make some of this shit. I've never had ram before.
yeah, for sure, I want to try to get down here and grab some food before you bounce out of here tomorrow. If I stay or not. I don't want to be.
If it stays at,
I don't want to be eating cold chili out of the bag.
If it stays at 90%, I'm gonna leave at some point tonight.
What? He's leaving the night.
You're gonna hunt in fucking 90% fucking rain in the morning?
Well, if it's this light rain, yeah.
I mean, yeah, if it's pouring buckets.
It's pouring buckets this morning. I didn't go out.
Yeah.
Bitch.
Waiting for you.
I thought you were fucking leaving. He sends me a text. He's like, "Hey, how far are you?" It's like 40 minutes. He's like, "Oh, okay. Well, I was gonna go ahead and leave. If you're gonna be here in a couple hours." I'm like, "You're gonna leave?" I'm like,
Leave?
"Leave?" Yeah, I'm like,
No, I meant to
going
go
away. Leave?
Go out.
I'm not here to sit in the camper, bro.
Fuck, the couch is gone.
Hey!
Only cost him like $100.
I mean, I only offered like 75,000 times. It's just Mr. Schedule.
Yeah.
Can't get her shit together. Your wife's dealing with my kids tomorrow, and I appreciate it.
Cool.
We'll have to deal with them. I got to text Sam.
What's she doing? Taking them there or something?
Yeah, she's going to drop them off, and then Sam's going to pick them up after he's at work.
Where's your wife?
She can't drive. She only has one leg.
Oh, yeah, broken leg.
Are we actually going to put this into the thing?
I mean, we'll see what it does. I'm really like, well, the cool thing about it is it's GarageBand. It's the same app I use to record at home. So when I get home, I can just airdrop it to myself on the computer, and then I can do some of the back end editing, try to cancel out some of that noise, and make it actually functionally capable of being listened to. If it works, I might do it. I might do it on the end of an episode. Just do like a normal episode, and then on the very end, be like, "Hey, bonus." Our Catoosa trip, whatever. Did you guys listen to that podcast that I sent you? Did I send to the group? The Angry Atheist Leftist podcast?
No.
It's bad.
I was engaging with you just because it seemed like they were dumb.
I mean, it's exactly what that title, you would think that title means.
Angry atheists.
I mean, they're self-described as atheist leftist. I mean, they're a Knoxville-based podcast. And they talk. I mean, they're not wrong on some of the. I mean, I'm not saying they're wrong on anything technically, but they're talking about different issues. Stuff that we talk about on the local side of stuff.
Nobody's 100% wrong. 100% of the time.
It's just like everybody's fucking trash. Like literally, everybody is fucking trash. Nobody's worth anything. They all fucking suck. Their Sam wants everybody to get killed. Like wants everybody murdered. Like anybody that they're talking about. Like so this that Judge Davenport. I don't remember who all was there when we talked about the Murfreesboro mess. Like he has his running joke on the show is what's their address? Because he wants to tell everybody where to go to kill a person.
Yeah, he's an idiot.
And it's like every time it's like
until that person gets killed, and then they charge you with accessory.
He's probably 5'7", $130.
So it's again like it's hard because it's like the Davenport one. I mean, I think Max hit it on the head perfect when we were talking about it. It's like you could take out the race portion of that conversation, and it's just as upsetting. It doesn't need to be black kids getting thrown in jail for stupid shit. Kids getting thrown in jail for stupid shit.
That's you.
Oh, something like that?
Yeah. And so, but they went on and on about the race car thing, and they're going through and talking about the stats and stuff, and none of the stats other than the one top story on the Davenport case, which is the most recent one, that the NAACP got involved because that whole one was all black kids, but none of the other stats say anything about race. But this judge is a racist piece of shit. I think this judge just hates fucking kids. But again, as Max said, it doesn't fucking matter. They're throwing kids in jails for not stopping fights. Now, if it does come out that it's race-based, then it's an additional disgusting, but it's disgusting in and of itself with the actual facts that we know.
Are you trying to rationalize the irrational?
This podcast people?
Yeah.
No, it's weird because I don't know. Maybe it's just like I'm listening to it. I'm trying to give them a chance, and I'm trying to.
Why would you give them a chance?
Get on board. Curious. I mean, they're our neighbors, whether we like it or not. Can't pretend they don't exist.
I mean, so is Cuba.
You were from Cuba? Well, no, because
I'd love to have a cigar. Every time somebody goes out of the country, he just never brings me.
On the premise of we talk about local election mattering and who we're voting for matters and shit that the different mayors we deal with and the school board stuff that matters locally. They're our neighbors. Like that topic is the same topic. It's not a geopolitical what the fuck's Cuba doing today story.
So Max and I had this conversation yesterday, maybe. The percentage of stupid people in this world hasn't increased over the last 30 years. The only thing that's increased is our ability to communicate. Ease and ability to communicate.
Sure.
So these people are fucking clowns, and the fact that we're even talking about them is just giving them free advertising.
That's fine.
To the 6.5 people that listen to the podcast.
Right.
Do they have more listeners than us?
I would imagine so.
They have less Facebook followers than you. If that counts for anything. They don't do Twitter or Instagram since we have Instagram. Wait, do we have Instagram? They need somebody on their show that asks, what's the solution? That might be the world changer for them.
What?
So they need somebody on their show like you that asks, what's the solution? Instead of bitching about problems all the time.
So then they'll have somebody on the show also that gets pissed off for asking that question and then alleges that he doesn't ever answer it.
Sounds like me. I mean, somebody. Sounds like somebody. Sorry, not me. We were not saying names. Am I supposed to clean the fridge after this trip, too?
I'm leaving all this stuff in there.
I meant to tell him that, actually. Fuck. I told him that when I first got here. I was like, hey, Seth isn't going to clean the fridge, right? Damn. That was on me. I should remember that.
I'll just wait till like Thursday and I'll text you like, hey, there's a bunch of shit in the fridge, so take it out.
It was the first weekend we were out in it's Catoosa Wildlife Management Area. It's a very beautiful area. It's very fun to hunt both weekends. So, like I said, it's a little bit weird. The cuts are funky. This is me working through the process of making a mobile show high quality and available as needed. So, that's part one. A couple weeks later, it's Sam and I in Catoosa Wildlife Management Area as well. But this time we're not in the RV. We're tent camping, and it's 20 or maybe 33 degrees outside. So it gets pretty chilly pretty quick. But we jump over to we were talking Rittenhouse. We were talking Mount Auberry, as well as some other kind of big stories. So here we go. Okay, we're back. I think. Make sure I'm not fucking this up. All right. Anyway, oh, maybe we're fucking up.
No,
Deal with it.
yep, you will.
Anyway, what were we talking about? Rittenhouse is not going to jail.
Yeah. The Arbery case is going on now as well.
Which one's that one?
Ahmaud Arbery. That was the jogger down in Georgia.
Oh, that's still going on?
Yeah.
I thought that one was done.
No.
I thought they found them guilty of murdering a guy for running on the street like idiots.
No. It's a trial right now.
Oh, shit. Well, that one should be the bigger story.
I mean, Court TV's been following them both.
I'm saying, like,
Just because there's live proceedings going on.
but as far as, like, major media, for me at least, I haven't heard anything on the Auberry one where I've heard shit about.
Well, I mean, the Rittenhouse, like you said, it does have a little more hot button issues of right to protect versus vigilantism, I guess, is pretty much what the two sides are going against.
I don't know. I mean,
Arbery gets into a little bit of the vigilantism, but it's a lot more of, apparently they were going to try to
Terribly-
self-arrest, yeah, and just
Right.
like,
That's
pretty much
what I'm saying.
chase
It's
the guy down, and then
the Rittenhouse case at least has a gray area of this was a dude that was in a situation, blah, 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 where the Auberry one...
I think that one has some cell phone footage. I don't know. I haven't really seen much footage of either one. Because with the Rittenhouse, apparently there was a lot of debate over some of like the drone footage and other cell phone footage. They were saying like the drone footage kind of like self-enhanced, so there are like apparently pixels that are added, and there was this whole big debate about how authentic, zooming in from certain footage, blah blah blah.
How accurate it is.
Getting the whole like technology of it, how accurate is that picture?
Interesting. I feel like
If
I don't know,
AI is
the Auberry one to me, I mean, that's a kidnapped murder. That's all that is. Like, I don't know how else to do that. They had no direct evidence on it.
right.
That they weren't eyewitnesses to the crime that they were detaining said random individual for.
Like the first
The
guy that
Rittenhouse
shot
one, at
him, they
least.
shot him because I guess Arbery came at him and was like punching him. They were saying beforehand
Last I
they
remember
thought
of
that
it was
he
they
may
stopped
have been
him.
armed. So that's why they went there armed, because they thought that he may have been armed.
Am I mixing up because the one in Georgia
Yeah.
where he was
He
running down
was
the street?
jogging, yeah.
Right, and they stopped
Which
him.
he
and like,
was
"Fuck
on
off," and he
security
ran by.
footage before of
In some house, yeah. Some
Right.
house under construction or whatever.
Right. So I was reading a story today that there was a local cop that had already gotten a call, and like they pretty much like knew the guy and they were looking for him. They didn't know exactly who he was. They hadn't identified him. But even then, if they would have found him, it was basically just going to give him a trespassing warning. Basically, like, hey, you've been here. I suppose you don't have a lawful reason to be there. If you're found on premises again, you'll be fined or whatever. You'll be found
Right,
for
but I'm saying,
trespassing.
like the guys that shot him, their argument there's no argument of self-defense there. They're just running away.
Right.
You don't have the right.
Well, one guy was claiming self-defense because I guess at some point Arbery turned around, and I don't know if he was fighting for himself or
Right,
if
because
he,
you kidnapped
I'm not sure if they'd already held him. I I'm not familiar with the whole like timeline of that. If they saw him and just started chasing after him, or
Right, and they pulled
if
him in
they-
front
at
of
some
him
point
with their
they
truck, and they stopped their truck in front of him, and he was going in a direction on a public street, and they used their vehicle and their bodies to stop him from taking said route. And then when he tried to go around, they continued to impede his path
yeah.
on no other premise than they thought he might be the guy that was doing the things that people were complaining about.
All right.
That is not.
Apparently, at some point, the guy that was driving the truck said he didn't like. His intention was to stop and block him, like he was trying to slow down and like get a good cell phone picture of him, so the cops like knew what he looked like to help find him or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's bullshit. It's all bullshit.
I mean,
That was fucking
it
bullshit.
goes back to trying to prove like your mindset for doing something, and you can't really. It's hard to kind of prove or disprove kind of gray area if someone's lying or not.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Like
I mean,
hey, we
that one to me, like, okay,
we saw
so
him put his hand in his pocket. We thought we saw a bulge that looked like a gun.
right,
so
but the
we,
Rittenhouse thing, I don't know. The difference in the two is that Rittenhouse went to a inflammatory situation to be part of an inflammatory situation. The Arbery one, those guys went specifically for that person. That whole thing was about a specific person.
Right.
Like Rittenhouse didn't go there because there was a particular person that he wanted to interact with and hope he got the chance to shoot.
right.
That's the difference legally, not even legally, just fundamentally as I see it. It's like Arbery didn't go there, or
I mean,
Arbery got stuck with some
Rittenhouse may have
assholes.
had an itchy trigger finger too.
I'm not saying he didn't. I'm just saying that the body of the situation is significantly different.
Right. And one thing the prosecution was, I guess they had a couple people up on the stands and were like, all right, you were there. And like, well, how many other people got shot that night? Like, nobody.
I mean,
Like, talking about how crazy everything was going on. Like, he was the only person that fired on somebody else in that night.
right. Again, I don't think Rittenhouse is without. I'm not trying to defend Rittenhouse in this situation.
Right. I
I'm
know.
just saying that one.
And that's the kind of like weird thing, they talked about, if the jury could be finding like sympathy for if he was just a young kid. So I guess they had a couple like former military people in there that Rittenhouse had met, I guess, like at that evening. Everyone thought that he was passing himself off as an EMT or telling people that he was, I guess, just trying to like fit in or seem cooler and more important than he was. Apparently he was lifeguard, but he was telling everybody he was EMT.
He's got some training.
As a lifeguard.
Oh, it's not nothing.
I mean, they teach you CPR and how to.
Again, I'm not saying it's
I know.
okay, but I would say there's a fundamental difference in the two cases, and the
Right.
fundamental difference being is
Or there's been talk of him, like, maybe getting, not really like sympathy, but feel like, well, I guess prosecution was basically like he should have known better, but it's also kind of played into his, him being 17 at the time of like, maybe he should have known better, but he didn't have the training. Because I guess they had some former military in there, like, would you have shot someone if they came at you in that kind of situation? And they're like, well, no.
well, ask just a random adult,
Right.
not former military, who's specifically trained in dealing with said situations.
Well, they asked like other adults that were there, but a couple of people that had on the stand were also military. But I'm sure the prosecution pulled many people up.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, like, you were there that night. Did
mean-
you come armed? No. Okay. Did you see stuff going down? Did you feel like your life was threatened, that you needed to shoot someone? Like, no.
I wouldn't carry my pistol if I happened to be in Kenosha at the time.
I thought at some point they
I
had
have a
like
right
the
to
business
carry, so-
owners there, and they're like, did you ask these people to come protect your used car lot or whatever?
That's a good question. I mean, not whether or not.
I'm pretty sure they came on and said no. We didn't ask anybody to
No,
come
they did or not.
protect
But
it.
is that? Okay.
Would that make them culpable?
No, and just in this, maybe that'd be. I would. I mean, I think if it were me, I would say no. I didn't want them here.
Right.
But did I appreciate that they were here protecting me? That's a better question.
I mean, if they're suborning perjury, whatever.
Do it.
I said if they're asking for perjury or whatever, but
No, I'm saying it depends what it depends on the question. If the question is, did you ask him? No. But did you appreciate that there was other citizens that were helping protect you and your property? Are you glad they were there to protect you and your property? That's a different. I mean, it's a different question.
You know,
Yeah.
you didn't ask him to be there, but you might have asked the cops to be there, and the cops didn't show up.
Sure, the cops are there. Cops
I'm not
aren't
saying
just
they
like
weren't.
sitting around twiddling their thumbs.
I wasn't saying they were or they weren't. I'm just saying you may have, like, I mean, there was stories. I mean, at least Max referenced one in Portland or whatever, where a dude was right on the edge, or maybe not Seattle. Maybe it was Seattle, where he was right on the edge of CHOP or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he called the police, and they basically said, no, we're not coming down there. We're not dealing with that shit.
Wow. Can't say I've heard that story.
I mean, you had. I mean, well, I don't know. I'm pretty sure you were there that night. We were talking about it. I mean, if you had, you heard it from Max, which is second-hand at best. Third hand, fifth hand.
All right. Yeah. I'm just not familiar with that story. To say it's false or to say it's false or true.
I mean, if I were a cop, I don't know if I'd fucking want to go down that bullshit.
Well, then you don't need to be a police officer if that's the mindset. I mean, that's just the factuality of it.
I agree.
You don't need to be a public protecting service.
Well, I guess the question is whether or not they were instructed by their superiors to not.
And that's a different story. That's not an individual officer saying like, "Oh, I'm not going to go respond to that." Yeah, I'm I had some bad Taco Bell. I'm still in the bathroom. I'm going to be here in at least 15, 20 minutes.
I'm sure that has happened, but I don't know that that's accurate for this case sake.
Right.
But I don't know. Okay. That's the current criminal proceedings. I don't know what else is going on in the world.
Law talk for the evening.
Trying to think else. What else is going on?
Yeah, a lot of
Infrastructure bill.
finally got passed. I didn't read the story saw a couple stories where they tried to actually list what all was in it. Of course, with any major bill, there's lots of different parts and pieces to it.
The real question, I mean, if you want to talk about the Biden presidency at least, I mean, the real question is what is this inflation? There's no question that we're not in the middle of an inflationary period. It's happening. On the way in, I paid $3.15 for gas. You know, it wasn't a full tank of gas, but I mean, I paid $3.15 a gallon for. You know, it was under $2. I mean, there was a couple times with. I think the most I've ever had in Kroger points got me like 60 cents off. And I remember getting it for under $1. I remember having like 97 cents a gallon. I was like, oh shit, this is back at like 2000 shit. What's up? And I mean, so the real question at play with the inflation is, like, I tend to disagree with some of my more libertarian-leaning persons that I pay attention to, and that inflation is inflation, period, and this is all because of spending and deficit spending and blah, 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 blah. Because the economics term is transitory.
Okay.
And so a lot of the transitory shit going on right now is COVID shit. So we had the lockdowns, we had all the different interruptions in business practices and blah, 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 blah. We have the backups in the ports because production's starting to catch up to demand, but we can't get things from A to B, logistics issues, blah, 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 blah. So that's some of what's going on right now is the transitory of once the supply chain catches up from the interruption that was 2020,
Right.
some of this will calm back down.
Yeah, I mean, most people were saying like the supply chain is going to at least be like this for the rest of the year, if not
Right.
into some of 2022. For different sectors.
Right, but now the question is how much of the inflation is transitory and how much of it is real inflation?
Right.
And I don't know. It's a tough one.
Is it complicated?
I'm not going to say that phrase. AC's not here. We're in the woods. But
Yeah, because I kept hearing like stories about there being a shortage of containers. Then I heard other people like, everybody's talking about containers, but nobody's talking about the carriers, or I guess I can't remember the actual like name for it, but basically like the little frames that actually on a truck bed that hold
Chassis or whatever.
chassis, the chassis. There's basically been like a shortage of chassis, and there's companies, transportation companies that have had chassis on order for, 12, 15 months or whatever. I'm just trying to get those. And with a lot of that bigger machinery, that's stuff that you do put on order and you don't have fulfilled for 6 to 9 months, just because it is such a niche market, and everybody is cranking out chassis.
right.
Yeah, if you're a
It's something you generally order and expect long term. But I mean, with COVID, I mean, you have that extra demand. I mean, it's what our market was going towards anyway, gradually.
I think
So much like online ordering, and then it just kind of got even worse with the pandemic.
right. I think it highlights how fragile the logistics supply
Right.
chain thing was in the first place. I think part of it
Because
too,
I mean, the ultimate goal of that supply chain is to be there, right there on the edge, not overstocking a warehouse, but having that constant
Right.
flow.
but yeah, but like one of the things that the global supply chain that we deal in now is how much of it's in transit and
Right.
how long is transit.
Right. And so
Or you
with
could have the
the
same. You can have the same just in time, which is the technical dork term. You know, you have that same just in time format, but if you're having semi-local suppliers through the chain, that transit time is not part of the conversation. Where that's one of the big things going on right now is like after the Evergreen incident and
that's how it's
everything else. You know, it's actually
It
transit
showed
time.
how crazy of just like one little thing breaking down affects everything else. Like
Yeah.
that whole lineup of ships just trying to go through the Suez Canal or whatever it was.
Transit time being an extra factor in supply chain that is not necessarily needed per se. But that's a more complicated story, I suppose. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm concerned about it, just in my own bottom line and whatever you want to call it. I mean, like, it's not a huge number, but groceries went from under $200, right at $200 a week, to $230, $250 a week. Like bacon's up, 50 cents to $1 a pound. Now, just 50 cents to $1 is not that big a deal.
It's because Biden's taking our beef away.
See that?
Biden's taking our beef away. He's going to take our hamburgers.
And that's why we're here. We're here to get our own meat
Right.
because it's way cheaper.
Yes, it is.
No, I was thinking about
Is
that.
processing that expensive?
Well, between processing and license and ammo and guns and time off work and all the different stuff it takes us to go out here and go hunt,
Shit.
I'm not sure that
Are
we're
we
getting
screwing
a
ourselves in
discount.
this? Like, fuck.
I mean, there's the bonus of it's a good time,
Right.
but as far as price per pound, it's probably not cheaper than ground beef right now.
No. Damn it. But healthier,
It is
assuming.
healthy. Yeah, I would assume it's healthier too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's a
Yeah, I mean, it's brought, I mean, in the past, 20 to 30 years, it's brought a lot of things to light as far as, wanting from garments being made. If you want that cheap T-shirt, you're going to be buying it from Mexico, from China, having it produced there.
right, and it rolls back into we were talking on the way up about I got into that Facebook argument about that stupid meme. I should have looked it up so I could quote it correctly. But it's it's one of the things that frustrates me in the conversation is that when people bitch about capitalism in America, and it's like, well, America's not capitalist. Like, I agree with AC on this one. He says all the time, we are already socialist on a lot of different things. It's like, okay. And it's like, I don't know, maybe it's a pot in the kettle conversation I'm not sure about. It's just like, when people blame capitalism for things, when it's not capitalism in action, because it's not, because capitalism doesn't bail out banks, capitalism doesn't, subsidize oil and gas producers, capitalism doesn't, help subsidize, the airline industry because of a pandemic or whatever. Like, that's not capitalism. And so when you're like, oh, capitalism's fucking evil and terrible, and they show these examples of American capitalism being the problem, it's like, well, that's not capitalism.
We've bailed out airlines before the pandemic.
I agree, but my point is that's not capitalism. Capitalism, and I remember saying this specifically on the podcast. Go back, look it up. When we were early in the pandemic, and they were that first COVID relief bill, they were subsidizing fucking airlines, and I said, no, this is stupid. Let them die. No, we have to have airlines. It's important for the infrastructure of America. Blah 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 blah. And we had this argument about it. It's like, no, fuck them. Let them die, because somebody will fix it, and somebody will come back and do it otherwise. But if you give them the excuse to operate poorly and continue to exist because the government's going to come bail you out, then they're going to keep doing stupid shit. It's the same things that the banks do. It's the same thing that oil and gas do all the time. They go send their lobbyists out and protect themselves. Big Pharma does their fucking game. You know, it's like, I mean, to my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is Pfizer has zero liability against long-term side effects of their COVID vaccine. I believe that was part of Trump's Operation Warp Speed thing, is it took the liability off the pharma manufacturers if there's a long-term side effect to their vaccine.
That I have no idea about.
But that's not fucking capitalism. But when that's the whole that whole thing is not to get this into a COVID conversation. That whole thing is to say that when people call out capitalism, American capitalism, for being fucked up, I take offense to that because it's not capitalism in action. Because capitalism lets these things die. Capitalism, real capitalism, says you as Pfizer or as the airlines or as the big banks doing stupid fucking loan bullshit, when you get your hand stuck in the cookie jar, you lose. That's capitalism. And so, you know, because I guess the point of the meme, and again, if I could quote it, it would make it more logical right now. But the point of the meme was like, you know, it's like basically, it's like, you know, we all hear all this fucking bullshit all the time from the capitalists about how socialism is the great evil and this, that, and the other, and then the capitalists love socialism when it bails them out of the shit. It bails them out of the shit. It's like, well, they're not very good capitalists, are they? That's my comeback to that. And they're not very good socialists either, if you want to get down to it, because bailing out the big banks is not helping the fucking people either. Neither one of these activities are a good version of what the ists in play are. It's not good capitalism. It's not good socialism either. You don't bail out fucking banks to help the people in socialism.
Right. I mean, I don't know. Some of those things, you know, would play out if those bailouts would not have happened. I mean, I don't know how the process, like, especially like, you know, with banks. I mean, you've got a bank that has, you know, probably hundreds of thousands of loans out there extended.
Lots of people get fucked.
What happens if that bank just, you know, has to just like, sorry, we're declaring bankruptcy? And it's like, well, fuck.
Right.
Obviously, somebody buys them, but I don't know how that initial bankruptcy goes into and how all that shit gets swapped around.
They have to call in all their assets, and they're calling all their assets means they call in their loans. You can't pay your entire house off right now. Doesn't mean you can't get a loan from a different bank to then buy your house, to then move your mortgage to a different bank so that the bank that gave you the original mortgage is going bankrupt. Either way, you're fucked as the homeowner. Well, let me take that back. You're fucked as the homeowner when the banks get bailed out. You might be fucked as the homeowner when the banks don't, because you have other options. I don't know. Again,
maybe,
you know, there is no true capitalism. There is no true socialism. That none of them work 100% true. I don't know. I take offense to the poor fucking analogies, for lack of a better word. It's like it's not. It's just like it's. I don't know. It's the easy cheap shot of I'm going to take a poke at capitalism because it's fucking easy.
Right.
It's like, well, no. If you're going to do it, fine, but be accurate with it and don't get all bent out of shape when I push back. Because I mean, it got down to it. We argued back and forth, and like the bottom line is, we both agreed that the government should not have bailed out these entities. They shouldn't do it. They shouldn't subsidize it. But it's like, be accurate with your assessment of it, and then we don't start off on the wrong foot where I'm picking a fight over your verbiage when it's like, yeah, it's fucked up, it's stupid, they should have let the banks fail. Who knows what would have happened? It would have been a mess. A lot of people would have gotten screwed.
That's what I was saying. Like, I don't know, like, what the repercussions would have been.
Right, but the people on the top
had those banks not been bailed out.
I guess that's
there was a lot of shady shit that went on with the bailouts, because there's banks that got bailed out, and then, you know, those same years,
right,
the board of directors were getting bonuses for whatever reason. Oh, your numbers look good. It's like, right, you just had to get fucking bailed out.
Right. That's the problem. Is that it's like, you know, like those guys should be losing, because if those guys lose, they don't do it again.
Right.
Other people come up and take their place, and they don't make those mistakes because they get to look back at history and go, yeah, well, they got really fucking loose and wild with their loan practices, and they got fucked.
Right.
I don't want to do that.
But was that middle level managers? I mean, I don't know if they ever broke it down to who's exactly okaying all these subprime loans or whatever.
I mean, I guess to me, in the way it shook down, the people that caused the problem didn't pay for it.
All right, that's what it seemed like. But yeah, I mean, I don't know all the details of what all banks were doing this and that.
But again, it's if the business entity that is the bank is the one that fucked up, they should be the one that loses, not the one that's kicking out bonuses to their CEOs and
Right.
all their staff still exists. Those people should lose, even if they're fucking some low-level teller. It sucks for that teller. It wasn't their fault. They didn't do anything specifically on it. But that bank should die. That teller goes get a job at another bank. It's that easy. But that teller goes to
It's not that easy if you just shut down that bank.
do what?
It's not that easy if you just shut down that bank.
And that teller can get another job. The people making the bad decisions, they might have a harder time getting a job because the other banks that want their expertise.
Hopefully it goes on their track record.
Right. The other banks that want their expertise and their history and their knowledge in banking go, oh, yeah, you were part of that thing that fucking fucked us all over. I mean, the whole industry fucked up. Again, I don't know. I guess to channel some AC is like that is one of the simple dichotomies at play that gets kind of force fed to it. I fell into the trap of, I guess, with this thing. It's like socialism versus capitalism, and it's like I took the side of capitalism, sort of.
I just kind of thought about it in the airlines case. So I wonder if it's similar to kind of something like the oil refineries. Whenever oil prices start going down and refineries start kind of shutting down for whatever reason, like it's not as simple as just turning the faucets off. Like there's a whole bunch of procedures that have to go into place to trying to slow down to come to complete stop of production to then try to ramp it back up. So where as far as trying to keep the major companies, if demand is down, there's not really like a standby. Like you've got to keep those planes, maintained or whatever.
Yes.
As far as like letting them fail, so that'd be a whole big thing of trying to swap it into some other kind of company. And
Right, but if you let them fail, they have to build that strategy into their practice. So we need to be prepared for if there's a drop in demand, airline being an example. If there's a drop in demand, what do we do? How do we deal with that? How do we fund that?
right,
Versus, well, if there's a drop in demand, the government will come in and keep us functional. So we don't have to worry about it. We don't have to think that way. We don't have to do pricing that way.
all right. Well, when was the last time there was a shortage of demand of flights?
I don't know.
Exactly.
But there was other airline bailouts in the past. You were the one that brought that up.
Yeah, that's just like random companies.
But why?
I think there was.
What is that? I mean,
If it was their cost, I don't remember. For some reason, I thought I remember there were previous airline bailouts.
what happens to me if the demand drops for the services that I provide, whether it's my day job or the shop? I have to adjust.
You have to cut costs, right?
I have to adjust in whatever way I have to adjust to stay alive, or I die. Just the way it is. Why are airlines or oil companies any different?
And that's what most airlines do. They start cutting services to different cities and blah
Right,
blah
but
blah.
the question is, but the question at play here is how does one get their industry to be on this gross term essential industry list that the government cares whether they exist or not? Government shouldn't care whether they exist or not. That's the problem. Is that the government cares that this industry exists or this industry is available for their people.
I mean, I don't know if they're more so just caring for the larger carriers that do have,
Right.
the
That's
larger.
the point. Is they care for the big business interest of it. They don't care. It's not about me and you and our ability to use a fucking airplane and take a flight from here to.
I mean, it's indirectly that if those go down, there's so many flights that are scheduled out for so long, it does affect the general public.
Sure. I'm not saying it doesn't affect the general public. My point is that
You're just like, well, they'll just, have to reschedule for on a different flight that's doesn't exist because that airline is no longer there.
I agree, but it's like, so is air travel a necessity? Like, the United States government has to have air travel available to their people. Like,
For many, yes.
it's necessity in like a utility sense. Like, it's like you have to have water for your house.
No,
Or power
not
for your
in a
house
utility sense.
So who benefits from airlines existing? The people that use it, and the people that use it are both leisure people and business people. And so the businesses get it, and they get to have their salespeople travel around the world and sell their shit or whatever the fuck it is, and me and you get to go on vacation. Okay, me and you don't get to go on vacation. What's the necessity? We don't need to go on vacation. If fucking, I don't know, North Face needs to send some genius plastics guy to their factory in, I don't know, wherever they're from, to go help them develop a thing, why should
They can do it virtually now.
Why should they, but my point is, why should the U.S. government go out of their way to make it easy for North Face's executive to go from place A to place B? More than they should make my business stay alive and exist. Like that's the problem that I have. Is, like where do we get ourselves to be okay with the idea that the government needs to pick which businesses are important and why? And I guess the why is the better question. Because restaurants come and go every fucking day. They don't care about them. Unless they're big enough like McDonald's.
I don't know if they're simply just trying to keep a large headache from becoming a migraine or whatever.
Yeah, but how do you? I mean, I don't know. That's the genius of people. Is we'll figure it out. Somebody will come along. That's the business interest.
Maybe so, maybe not. I don't know.
I mean, maybe not, but I'm just saying. Like most of the greatest innovations ever have been a result of necessity. What's the
Right. What's more likely, that or another larger company just buying up this now failed company?
Okay, so is that the government's job to stop that?
What's more likely?
What
in that scenario?
Give me the specific. Are we talking airlines?
Let's do sleeping bag manufacturers.
Okay. So we'll stick with North Face because that makes sleeping bags.
Okay.
So North Face can't fly their guy from point A to point B.
Why are you going back into airlines?
I don't know. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out like, a company that the government has interest in keeping functional. And that's what I'm talking about. It's like why does Delta, not airlines in general, but Delta specifically, need to exist to the U.S. government?
Sorry, I thought we shifted away from airlines. I understand your confusion and trying to get back to sending business people and CEOs all across the world.
I would say, they don't care about North Face. I mean, the U.S. government doesn't care about North Face or Ozark Trail or anybody else that makes tents or sleeping bags. They don't. I mean, they're not going to do any. I can't imagine a scenario where they're going to subsidize sleeping bag manufacturing. Because I mean, to me, it doesn't fall under necessity and or utility category. I mean, they're nice to have when it's fucking cold and you're in the woods.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't remember the train of thought I was going down.
I'm just saying, I get it. I understand the premise of the U.S. government, on some level, can at least rhetorically say they're doing this because it's for you and me, the people, because this is an industry that we need or that we use very, very often, and we need it to be available. And so that we're going to do something, we're going to inject the government into this industry to make sure that it's available for you to use as the person. And I guess my point is that if they didn't, and that industry failed, whatever it is, somebody would come along with an innovation to fill that gap. I need that thing. I need to get from here to there. I need sleeping bags, whatever the fuck it is. There's a need there. Somebody will figure out how to fill it.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that was my logic. That's what I was saying. Which was more likely to happen? An innovator coming along and revolutionizing an industry, or a company failing that was a prospective, I guess, buyout or whatever, and a rival just taking that failing company and just consuming it?
Well, why would you? If you're the big company, why would you consume the rival that's dying anyway? And that's not how the government intercedes, at least on this.
How you acquire assets for cheap.
Maybe
is what comes along with that company. its rights, trademarks, factories, whatever
Okay, so
intellectual property.
So then you and I, the end users, still get access to the thing we want. Eventually, I suppose.
So I was just trying to push back against your
I'm
like,
saying,
well,
eventually-
somebody's going to come along and revolutionize and change it, and I'm like,
Sure.
what's more likely to happen? That, or what normally happens is the market lets
Right, and
some
that
company
big
die,
behemoth-
and then can just
That big behemoth
can buy
thinks
it
that
up
they
at
can
pennies on
control
the dollar.
everything and do whatever the fuck they want, and then somebody innovates.
well, not
underneath
some
them
big
anyway.
behemoth. It's just rivals do that.
Sure, I just don't. I don't see how those are. I don't know. I need a specific.
Like I
on
said,
one of
I
those.
was just pushing back on your like, well, somebody could come along and we'll just let them die because someone may come along with this great idea. It just seems more likely that would not happen versus in an industry, other competitors would just buy that out instead of
Without
up
the
and
injection of-
go or pulling himself up by his bootstraps, and I'm going to change the industry. And
People do it all the
flourish.
fucking time. It's happened a bajillion times over existence.
it's true, yeah.
Even against the behemoth that buys up the dead.
The ShamWows.
I mean, it is a regular occurrence. It's not a new thing. It's just fucking. I don't know. I'm struggling. To
I
see
think
what
that's more people making niche market, not necessarily revolutionizing
Okay,
a
here's
market.
great example would be Whole Foods,
Okay.
Fresh Market, Earth Fare.
Yeah.
Like they didn't exist. Organic grocery stores didn't exist.
On
Whole Foods came-
the corporate level, I mean, but there were
There were handfuls here and there, or
just
whatever.
farmers markets, basically, is
Right,
what
but
it was.
the first
It was
one that
just-
really injected itself into the market, which I think was Whole Foods,
I think, yeah, I don't
and
know.
grew and got a little bit bigger. And now you go to a Kroger or a Food City, they have a Whole Foods section, for lack of a better word.
Right.
It hasn't taken over the entire grocery store, but the big behemoths in the game had to adjust to the up and coming, disruptor sub portion of the industry, and they weren't subsidized by the government to do so. If anything, they were inversely subsidized because they didn't deal with the
but
meat
did-
markets that were subsidized. They didn't deal with the produce markets that were subsidized by the governments because Kroger and shit already did that. They sold the idea differently, and now they're a huge company that got bought by Amazon. But anyway,
But did the other major grocers really change their market plan or whatever, or did they just see what Whole Foods did and just add a little section in there to get a little bit of that market too?
I mean, you say add a little section, but I mean, you're talking groceries.
They've got like a small section of in the fresh produce area. They've got a little section that's like all organic. You go to the cereal section, they've got a small section that's like all organic, gluten free or whatever.
So
But
the way the grocery stores work is by shelving feet. It's how much do I make per shelving foot, and I put product on there that makes me the most per shelving foot. So if I'm going to add a section of organic stuff, it's because it's going to make me at least as much as its neighbor. If it doesn't make me as much as its neighbor, I take that shelving away and I put, if I'm in the pasta aisle,
right.
and I have my regular super, GMO flour, whatever the fuck, pasta section, and then I have my.
Right, but you could also argue, was that Whole Foods or was that just the general public?
I mean, I don't know how the general public opens up to it without Whole Foods.
So there was no demand for quote-unquote healthier foods, organic foods prior to Whole Foods.
I mean, was
Whole Foods came along and everybody was like, you know what?
Were there organic sections in every portion of a grocery store prior to Whole Foods?
I think there were, it just wasn't
Well,
advertised as organic before it kind of became like this term.
Or
Most people just called it fresh or local.
But that does again. This dives into a whole bunch of fucking specific terms.
It gets into I mean, it's all about marketing, is what it really breaks down to.
My point is that Whole Foods came in and they disrupted the market, and the big players had to adjust to that market. Whole Foods is a victim of their own success. Whole Foods growth fell real fast because they grew so fast that the big boys said, hey, they're getting big, we need to take a chunk of that, and adjusted to it. And that is an innovator coming into an industry that exists and that existed for years, changing the way the industry worked. Because, I mean, you look at...
I will grant you that touche, sir.
I'm just saying, like, that's... that. And was there...
That was a good example, yes.
You know, there was no government subsidy came in that helped the little guy. If anything, the government subsidies that exist were helping Kroger and Food City as they exist, because the farmers that Kroger and Food City were buying from were being subsidized in the current government programs. I don't know. There may exist. I'm sure there's some exist now, but I don't know of any organic subsidies that the federal government puts out or grants for organic farming.
What? Just because they grow organic doesn't mean they're not farmers. They're not entitled to farming subsidies.
I don't know that those exist specifically.
They don't get special subsidies, but they get the same subsidies as any other farmer.
Right, but
so they're entitled to the same.
I don't know how
they don't get different. I mean, they may get a little bit extra because it's organic.
I don't know.
If there's something in
that's the question.
a federal niche program that does that, but oh no,
I spilled my beer.
But no, they're getting the same farm subsidies as any other farmer, but whether they're organic or not.
I don't know. I don't know what the subsidies.
I mean, they may have some like state legislation that's giving extra subsidies for organic farming in certain areas or whatever. But
I don't know the subsidy. I don't know how the subsidies are written as they exist.
It sounded like you were saying that organic farmers they didn't get to have it, so they weren't able to compete with the other big box farmers.
An organic farmer is already at a disadvantage because they can't yield like a non-organic farmer does. They're not going to get the same amount of yield per acre.
All right, they're not able to use as much like synthetic Miracle Grow or whatever.
So even if they do get similar subsidies, they're going to be a less productive farm, even with subsidies.
Not ever.
That's the point I was getting to. So, oh fuck, I don't know. Anything else you got?
Not off the top of my head.
We got U.S. Mexico coming up, so I want to check out what's going on there. Oh. And I may have fucked this up and I spilled beer on my phone.
Okay. Oh, no.
No, it's a party. All right, well, that's Fireside Chat with Almost an Agreement. Thanks for listening, everybody. We may do a regular show tomorrow anyway. I don't know. See what time we get home. But, I don't know. I'm really curious about quality. That's really what I want to check here is quality without a bunch of fucking ambient noise kind of shit. Anyway, all right, Almost Agreement, everybody. Outro music starts meow.
Like I said, outro music starts meow. So anyway, we appreciate you guys listening. I know it's a little bit different. The quality is not as good as normal. But like I said, it was a test for a lot of different things. And then, still stuff happening, and we're still working through trying to understand how we four random dudes in Knoxville feel about it. So, I don't know. We're going to keep doing what we do. We got we got the big weekend this coming weekend. So that might be a 2-part episode because it'll be at least 2 nights of recordings, and we'll work it out from there. Anyway, we're Almost an Agreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Look us up on any of your favorite podcast providers. While you're in these places, like, share, 5-star review, all the good stuff to help other people see us easier. We're going to keep working on stuff. This 2022 county state election stuff's going to be crazy, so I've got to get I'll probably wait till right after Christmas, and then I'll get really started on trying to figure out what's going on over there. So we're Almost in Agreement. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great day.